A celebration of 34 years of work. Today, the city of Sheldon, Iowa celebrated the connection of its water treatment plant to the Lewis and Clark regional water system.
Sheldon, by the way, is the 18th of 20 communities in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Iowa connected to the system. KTIV's Clayton Anderson explains the significance of the system to all three of those states.
In December of last year, water from the Lewis and Clark regional water system started to flow through pipes in Sheldon. But this multi-state project didn't happen easily.
This is a project that without some key funding along the way might have taken 50 years to complete, which is just crazy.
The water coming to Sheldon from the water system comes from a series of wells that tap into an aquifer near the Missouri River. Once the system is treated, it's sent to 18 communities in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Iowa. One thing that was said by officials involved in the project is that this would have not got done in 2024 if not from the Biden infrastructure law.
We've received $142.5 million from the bipartisan infrastructure law, and there's an opportunity to receive more. That's been a godsend to us.
The senior advisor to the Bureau of Reclamation, which is part of the Department of the Interior, says the timeline was sped up by the funding from the infrastructure law.
We are able to start new projects, and for projects that are ongoing like Lewis and Clark, we are able to speed up that work significantly.
Western Iowa Congressman Randy Feenstra has been involved with the project in his district for many years. He says it's exciting to see it up and running.
I'm just so thrilled that Sheldon finally gets the water.
Feenstra said the Lewis and Clark regional water system is great for the economy in his district, which is largely impacted by the system.
We have this great ability to have the water we need, good, clean drinking water, and good to help as we grow businesses in our communities and grow our families.
When the infrastructure bill came up for vote in 2021, Feenstra was one of 200 House Republicans to oppose it. But it should be noted that at the time, the bill didn't include any specific projects like Lewis and Clark to get federal funding. In Sheldon, Iowa, Clayton Anderson, KTIV News 4.
And the goal is to expand the water system to more cities in the future with possibility more funding.